Hey guys, Tyler here. So, one of the long-running debates in Star Trek fan circles has naturally been what does and does not constitute canon. This is notwithstanding the fact that the only official definition of canon states that all the shows and films are part of it. No novels, comics, video games, fan productions, any of that. Now, admittedly, this definition does come from the studio, Paramount, which obviously leaves a lot of people unsatisfied since they're not only responsible for the old Trek many hardcore fans venerate, but also the new Trek that is more divisive. But recently, some cracks in Paramount's official definition might have begun to emerge, and often doubt about certain episodes and films' canonicity comes from the makers of Star Trek itself. In this video, I want to highlight some major Star Trek installments whose canonicity has, at the very least, come into question over the past few years. Let's get started. Did you know that flavored air devices are quickly becoming the leading alternative to vaping? It's an entire new movement towards better habits, led by today's sponsor, Fume. Fume is an award-winning flavored air device that fills the void ditching a bad habit can leave. You'll still have something to reach for. Fume draws flavor to your mouth through a passive diffusion system, but doesn't use vapor, meaning you can use it anywhere. No nicotine, so it's not addictive. And no batteries, so you'll never have to charge it. The device looks awesome, is perfectly weighted, and incredibly fun to fidget with. If vapor were compared to sticky soda, Fume cores are closer to herbal teas. They've got lots of delicious flavors to choose from, like crisp mint and orange vanilla. Based on my channel name, you can probably tell which one piqued my interest the most. Fume has already helped over 300,000 customers build better habits. Try Fume today, and if you order the Journey Pack now using my code OrangeRiver, you'll get a free Fume topper, a cool accessory to level up your experience. Go to tryfume.com/OrangeRiver or scan the QR code on screen. Now, back to the video. Star Trek's original pilot, The Cage, was made in 1965, but was not actually broadcast until 1988. Featuring Christopher Pike as captain of the USS Enterprise, The Cage features many elements that are difficult to reconcile with the rest of canon. These include Spock's more outward display of emotions, implications that faster-than-light travel is relatively new, and more. But later writers have retroactively made it so The Cage can more easily fit into the Trek timeline. For instance, Spock's portrayal in Strange New Worlds is that of someone who is still struggling to balance his human and Vulcan halves. Arguably, though, The Cage as presented was not actually intended to be part of canon after a second pilot was ordered, which eventually became Where No Man Has Gone Before. As a matter of fact, I've argued that Strange New Worlds retcons of the dates of Khan's birth and the eugenics wars means the original series, and by extension elements of The Wrath of Khan, are no longer canon either. That is to say, while characters in later media obviously still broadly reference the missions of James T. Kirk, the writers have indicated that temporal shenanigans mean Khan's reign no longer took place in the 1990s, but the mid-21st century. I have a whole video about what this means for the rest of the timeline, which you should definitely check out. Link in the description. Again, officially TOS and the films are part of canon, but they don't exactly square with the Prime Universe timeline that the later shows constitute. Speaking of early Trek, the animated series placement in canon has also always been precarious. Certainly, it was intended to be a continuation of Star Trek in another medium when it was being produced in the 70s. But later, when discussion about canon became more codified, everything except the live-action shows and films was excluded. Contrary to popular belief, this actually had nothing to do with Gene Roddenberry and was Paramount's official stance even as late as the 2000s, long after his death. The animated series aside, there's a lot that Gene wanted to remove from canon. He famously disliked major aspects of what Nicholas Meyer brought to the franchise, considering some of the more militaristic overtones of films like Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country as apocryphal, even though he at that point had no real authority to make this sweeping claim. When making TNG, he also believed it should take precedence over anything it contradicts in TOS, which in and of itself is not really unreasonable given Encounter at Farsight PowerPoint kind of retcons the date of World War III anyway. Of course, Gene also considered Star Trek V: The Final Frontier apocryphal something a lot more fans could get behind, even though Star Trek V has also never been officially removed from canon, nor any of the other films. In any event, getting back on track with TAS, it was added back to canon in 2010 with the relaunch of StarTrek.com, and today the other animated series, Star Trek Lower Decks and Star Trek Prodigy, are canon as well. However, I still think elements of TAS are difficult to reconcile. Episodes like The Magics of Megas 2, where the Enterprise travels to the center of the galaxy, don't really square with the travel times Starfleet ships are supposed to be capable of even a century later. This also applies to Star Trek V, but there is that fan theory about the whole thing being a dream, so I'll leave that up to you. But while Lower Decks has a ton of callbacks to the animated series, I more so consider these Easter eggs than confirmation that everything that happened in TAS is still to be taken literally. Many people have also pointed out how Season 3 of Star Trek Picard subtly implies the Star Trek Enterprise finale, These Are the Voyages, may no longer be canon. The central piece of evidence to this end is the appearance of the NX-01 at the Fleet Museum, sporting a refit that was intended for Enterprise's unproduced 5th season. As These Are the Voyages takes place years after the events of Season 4, but the NX-01 lacks this redesign, I think this argument is pretty compelling, especially given so much of These Are the Voyages takes place inside a holodeck simulation. Picard showrunner Terry Matalas worked in the Enterprise writer's room, arguably giving him at least some level of authority to make this change, even if it hasn't been made official. But while These Are the Voyages has its defenders, the slap in the face many people believe it represents to the Enterprise cast means any attempt to remove it from canon has some justification. And Picard isn't the first Trek installment to do this. While not canon, the novel The Good That Men Do details how Riker's simulation in These Are the Voyages contains historical revisions, and Trip Tucker didn't actually die on the day depicted in the episode. Alright, the main reason I wanted to make this video is to talk about this one. If you couldn't tell already, the title of this video is a little clickbaity. Sue me. None of the shows or films that I've talked about thus far have actually been removed from canon, and that includes Star Trek Discovery. But statements made by certain Trek creatives have left room for fans to have disagreements. For those who aren't aware, in the series finale of Lower Decks, when inhabitants of the Prime Universe are threatened by dimensional energy that alters matter into other quantum states, a Klingon officer is transformed into a Klingon with the Discovery redesign. While a pretty straightforward interpretation of this shot is that he's being altered into a version of himself from a universe where more Klingons still look like this, others had a different interpretation. This sequence alone led many fans to proclaim Discovery had been erased from canon, and people in my audience sent me a litany of tabloid articles to this effect. I've defended my stance on this many times, but an interview with Lower Decks creator Mike McMahon admittedly introduced some complications. McMahon said, "Listen, I'm not going to tell the fans how to respond to anything. If you watch Fissure Quest, you can see the timelines across different realities are all messed up. Was I being a little stinker with that moment and knowing what I was doing? Yeah, I'm not dumb. It's also not firmly established. Another multiversal shift we saw is it turned into a Klingon sail barge. You can take that moment however you want, and talk to me about it in 10 years. Personally, I think this is not the best way to answer a question like this because it is kind of muddying the waters. But I do understand why he said it. It's clear McMahon has a disdain for Discovery, and listen, I'm right there with you. I didn't really care for the Klingon design nor various other elements of Discovery, and I thought it was pretty funny when Lower Decks took a shot at Discovery's depiction of Section 31.
Isn't Section 31 supposed to be like a big secret? I mean, why would we wear special comm badges that advertise who we are?
You could still be dead.
No, you know what? I like the badge.
But I've referenced the show countless times in my lore videos because it's always supposed to have been part of canon, and officially it still is. I think the benefits and the downsides of decanonizing Discovery are not as clear-cut as some people like to think. While the decision to make Michael Burnham a ward of Sarek is questionable. Strange New Worlds is a direct spin-off of Discovery, whose first episode deals with the consequences of the battle near Zahia with Control, which directly preceded Discovery's time jump to the far future. And the Strange New Worlds episode, Those Old Scientists, is a direct crossover with Lower Decks in what's presented as a closed time loop. It's also worth noting that, very famously, the Klingons' design has changed considerably throughout various iterations of Star Trek long before Discovery. So, temporal shenanigans aside, all of these events are supposed to be part of what is called the Prime Universe. But if questioning Discovery's canon status gets people to treat Lower Decks as the correct timeline, I'll take that W. So, what has actually been removed from Star Trek canon? Well, again, officially nothing. But I do think unofficially, elements of the original series, the animated series, and the Wrath of Khan are difficult to reconcile with the rest of the timeline, while These Are the Voyages could be considered completely apocryphal. But what do you think? Let me know down in the comments. With that, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed my video, be sure to leave a thumbs up down below and don't forget to share it. That stuff really helps me out. If you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to do that as well so you won't miss future uploads, and click the bell icon to receive all notifications. If you want to support my work even further, you can become a patron at patreon.com/OrangeRiver, link in the description, or become a YouTube member by clicking the join button on my channel page. By becoming a patron and member, you also get access to awesome perks like behind-the-scenes photos and videos, patron and member-only polls, name in the credits, merch discounts, and more. Or you can drop a one-time super thanks or PayPal donation. All are appreciated. Links to my PayPal as well as my social media merch store are in the description too. Also, just as a reminder, I do have a second channel, OrangeRiver Plus, where I've uploaded the VODs of lots of my gaming streams, with more on the way. And in addition to some other goofy one-offs and extra behind-the-scenes content, I've officially made it my second streaming platform, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new content. And big thanks once again to Fume for sponsoring today's video. That's all I have for this week. Live long and prosper.
Erica!
Oh my god!
Erica, can you hear me?
Dr. Azukaza? I saw you die!
I've emerged from the depths of reptilian hell to deliver a very important message!
I spoke at your funeral!
Erica, listen very carefully. Issue 2 of Star Trek Endurance is now available for patrons and members of OrangeRiver.
This has got to be a nightmare.
Just sign up for $2 or more at patreon.com/OrangeRiver or click the join button on OrangeRiver's YouTube channel page. It's that simple, even you could do it.
Wake up, Erica! Wake up!
You must inform the people, Erica. It's your duty. Erica!
Do you like merchandise? If so, head on over to the new and improved OrangeRiver merch store. That's right, OrangeRiver is now officially on Spreadshop. I've got a bunch of awesome new designs, including All the Way Down,
All the Way,
Vape God, Tally, aka Best Girl,
it was totally worth it.
and what is perhaps my greatest design yet,
I love being married to my husband.
Plus, I've got some of my classic designs like OrangeRiver Arrowhead, N7, Metroid, Mycelial Network,
The mycelial network is like
Mycelial Network, and more. And there are even some new products like OrangeRiver hats. That's right, OrangeRiver hats now exist. Visit the link in the description to get discounts and other special deals on items from my store.